Hello my friends, and this will be a short video about installing Oracle's VirtualBox product in Windows. I realize that a lot of my tutorials are probably going to use VirtualBox for one reason or another, so it would be a good idea to start out with how do you install VirtualBox on your Windows machine. It is not a particularly difficult install or anything like that, but let me walk you through the process, and we'll go out to the website and see what's on there and can explain some of the features of the product. So let's firstly go to a virtual machine I've already set up so we can have a nice clean install. So here's a Windows 10 installation with nothing installed, and we'll use this to install VirtualBox. And the reason why is that I don't want to uninstall it from my regular computer and then reinstall it to show you. That can always change the way that the installation goes. So better to have it be fresh. So here we are in Windows. Bring up whatever browser you prefer. And we'll go ahead and type into our search box here, virtual. And then just VirtualBox should come right up. But VirtualBox, go search for it. And right up here, you should see the URL for it. Verify before you go there that it is virtualbox.org. That is the actual site for this product. I have noticed lately that Google has been posting a lot of ads popping up before your search results. And sometimes they get pretty sneaky on sending you places you might not expect. So I always recommend my students double check that that actually does say what you're expecting. So we'll go ahead and click on that. And that should take us to the VirtualBox website. And VirtualBox is a product of Oracle. It is a product that allows you to create virtual machines. Basically an installation of an operating system on another operating system. And in fact, if you want to get fancy schmancy, you actually can make a virtual machine on top of a virtual machine on top of a virtual machine on top of a virtual machine. You can get pretty crazy with this. But since I'm going to use it a lot for my classes, what the heck, we'll do an install video for you so you can see how to do it. It's pretty easy. So right in the middle of the screen there, you should see download VirtualBox 6.1. Go ahead and click that. And that will take you to the actual download page. Now there are two items that you're going to want to download. One is the installer package. The other is the extension pack. So let's download this installer package first. So we're going to install for Windows, so it's pretty easy. You just find Windows hosts right there. Let me kick up my font size for you real quick, just to make it real easy to see what we're doing. So here we got Windows hosts right here. Click that. And depending on the browser that you have, it will ask you if you want to save it or it will just download it into the downloads directory. We'll go ahead and just click save. Don't click run. Don't run the executable. Let it go ahead and save it to the directory. That way we can go and grab it later and do the install here in a couple seconds. So it's finished downloading. I'm going to scroll up a little bit. And here is a thing called the extension pack. And we want to download that too. For our purposes here, I'm expecting you to be downloading this probably for yourself, not for your company, let's say. So be aware that the extension pack adds more features than the normal install of VirtualBox. As you can see, if you want to get USB 2 or USB 3 support, if you want to have a remote desktop protocol, if you want to be able to encrypt the drives that you make with VirtualBox. In other words, if you want to encrypt that operating system using VirtualBox, and NVMe and PXE boot for Intel. PXE and NVMe are special features that not all things need. But that disk encryption, I could see where someone might need it. And for my security classes, I definitely need to have USB 2 and 3.0 type devices. So I almost always install VirtualBox with its extension pack. It is not absolutely necessary, but you have to pay for it in some scenarios. For personal use, like if you're playing along with me here and we're doing the tutorials, that kind of thing, you're good to go, probably. But if you are working for a company, if it's a for-profit operation, they call it, then yeah, you might need to actually pay for it. So I don't want to get into that. I'm not a licensing agent. I'm not here to get into that. But in this case, we're going to go ahead and install it because I'm just assuming you're using it at home or something like that, or at work where it's not a commercial enterprise that you're using it for. You're using it for your own learning, not to make money with, so to speak. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the all supported platforms because the extension pack is something that VirtualBox understands. It doesn't need the operating system to understand it. So it's one for all the platforms. So we'll go ahead and click save. So we clicked that and we clicked save. So now we should have two items in our downloader location. So I'm just going to click open folder. I'm going to go to my downloads. And as you can see, users, Jim, downloads. We have an exe and we have the extension pack. Notice that the extension pack right now has that blank page look. That's because we haven't installed VirtualBox yet. So it literally does not have the extension registered. Let's see what that is, by the way. .vbox-extpack. So once we get VirtualBox installed, though, that little blank page look will go away. I'm going to go ahead and close the browser. Usually you don't want too much stuff running when you're doing an install, so let's go ahead and I'll just make sure I don't have anything else running. Double click on your Windows executable there, and it should bring up the installer. Nothing shocking. Might take a little bit while it gets its little stuff ready. There we go. So now let's go ahead and click on our installer's next button. This takes you to the setup. Again, nothing particularly shocking here. Pretty straightforward setup. There are a couple things we can mention. One is don't change anything here unless you absolutely need to. There generally is no reason to do it. If you know that what you're using VirtualBox for does not need USB, you can click on this and then tell it not to be available. Again, you're probably going to want USB support. I would assure you that you probably do not want to turn off networking. It is quite common to want your virtual machine to be able to use the network. And if you remove that, you might not be able to ever use the network unless you reinstall it. And then down here, you've got a VirtualBox Python 2.x support. This is for both Python 2.x and Python 3. VirtualBox does actually support both those systems for creating virtual machines, and it has a full API, a full, for lack of better, instruction set under Python that you can utilize to automate processes with scripting and things like that. I never would remove this feature. It doesn't hurt anything to have it in there, so why not leave it? And besides, I teach Python, so maybe we'll actually use Python for doing some VirtualBox one of these days. You never know. As far as the location goes, again, this is a program that is made 64-bit in this case for Windows. So we'll go ahead and let it install to the standard location, Program Files, Oracle VirtualBox. You don't need to change that. You can. I have actually installed this on another hard drive, and I have installed this on the C drive in a different directory. It doesn't seem to have any problem either way. But again, for what we're doing, don't change anything. We have no need to make changes here. Click Next. This is another one where, again, there's not much need to change anything for what we're doing. I don't care if it makes stuff in the start menu, that's fine. Create shortcut on the desktop. As you can see over here in the corner, my desktop did get an icon. Create a shortcut in quick launch and register file associations. All these things are straightforward, and all these things should probably be done. Again, I trust your judgment if you don't think you need that, but I would definitely not unregister file associations. I would probably keep that one at the very least. Click Next. So VirtualBox installs a bunch of network stuff. And it's not a simple thing that it installs. It actually installs quite a bit. And it's warning you that, okay, this is going to reset your network connection. So if you're in the middle of, say, playing World of Warcraft, let's say, it could kick you from your connection and then bring it back. So it won't hurt anything, but it will disconnect you possibly. And they're just being nice, letting you know that when it does this, it is going to disconnect the network while it installs that stack. And in case you're doing something that's network intensive or that you don't want blocked, like a Zoom meeting, maybe, for remote learning or something, yeah, you might want to be careful doing that unless you know it's okay. For here, we're good to go. It doesn't matter. We're not doing anything fancy on the network right now, so we're good. So proceed with installation now. Yes. And at that point, you've answered all the questions. You're ready to install. So just click the install button. And it does not take too long. One thing it will do, however, it's going to ask you for permissions to install this product. Now remember, this is a fresh install of Windows. So this is how it would be defaulted. And as you can see, you get user account control window, the standard thing you see in Windows for this. And then you have to tell it yes or no, whether you want to make these changes, whether you want to have basically admin type permissions. So we'll say yeah, of course, because we're trying to install it. So click yes. And it doesn't take too long. It has to chew around a little bit, install that network stuff, put some things in the registry. But nothing too crazy. It's a pretty short install. Now, while it's finishing up here, just FYI, I have installed it and uninstalled it over and over again on a machine. It doesn't seem to have too much trouble with that. Every once in a great while it can, but as long as you use the standard uninstaller from Windows, the add remove programs thing, it should uninstall okay. It will leave files on your machine. It certainly will leave any virtual machines that you've made on your machine. And that makes total sense. You don't want all your virtual machines to go bye-bye if you uninstall this product, right? But yeah, if you're concerned about having it installed and uninstalled because you're doing this for testing or whatever, it seems to be okay with that. But again, I couldn't really do that on my own desktop at home because I was worried that it might change the way that the install operates. And I wanted to make sure that you saw a fresh and clean install rather than one that had already been there. So once you're done, you'll get this window and start Oracle VirtualBox after installation. I usually have it start just because. So I'll just click Finish. And it will bring up the UI for VirtualBox. There we are. Looking good. We can go ahead and close this one. So I'm going to click the X up here. Now, let's install this extension pack. So we downloaded our extension pack already from their website. I'll go ahead and double click on this. Since that is now registered, notice the little blank page went away. It's got a new icon there, that little box. Yep, that's because it registered it with VirtualBox, right? So here you have a question pops up. Hey, you're going to install the VirtualBox extension pack. Do you really want to do this? And of course, yes, we do. So go ahead and click Install. Make sure you read the licensing agreement. You know you're supposed to read those licensing agreements. Click I agree. Otherwise, it's not going to go very far. It's going to ask you again, probably for administrator permission. So we want to click yes. Go ahead and install. It'll take a few seconds. And you should get a window that says the extension pack was installed successfully. Click OK. And you're good to go. I'm going to go ahead and close the downloads window here because we don't need that anymore. As you can see, we've got an icon up in our virtual machine here, just like the icon I have on my main desktop. Now, usually I would like to have this pinned to my taskbar. You do not have to do that. If you want to, you can. You don't have to. I'm going to go ahead and just right click on this though, down here on the taskbar, and click Pin to Taskbar. That will make sure it doesn't go away. Now, one other thing, if you ever need to get to this again, rather than trying to navigate through a ton of menus, you can always just press the Windows key and then type VIR, and that should bring right up Oracle VM VirtualBox. And you can see there where it shows app, and that would run it as well. So some people don't really use the taskbar. If you can type quickly, it's not that important to use it, but it can be useful for some folks. They do like it. All right, looks like VirtualBox is installed. I'm going to go ahead and click Help and go to About VirtualBox just to make sure it looks like everything's good. There's no errors coming up. There's no weird problems with it. Click Close. Now, one other thing too, I will put links to both the download for the product, and I will also put a link for the manual as well. So let me show you this real quick. I go to VirtualBox Manual. And the interesting there is, here's a great example. Notice that the manual, when you type in manual here, it actually changed what come up at the top, right? Now it's Azure, blah, 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 not VirtualBox. Interesting. What we want is this link right here, Oracle VM VirtualBox Manual. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. So this is the user's manual. You can download it in PDF format, if I remember correctly, and you can also read it here in the HTML format. If you know that you're going to be using VirtualBox a lot, I do recommend that you go and at least give this a cursory read through. VirtualBox is a very powerful product, especially for free. It has a ton of features in it, and it is actually quite automatable as well. So reading that manual could be useful, but if you're going to be following along with any of the tutorials that I'm going to be doing, and we're using some VirtualBox for, say, Kali Linux or for Windows or who knows what, yeah, no worries. You don't need to read the manual to do that. I'll walk you through all that stuff. But understanding that I realize that you're probably not just going to be watching Jim's things, feel free. But I always like to give a link to the manual. So I'll make sure in my YouTube video that down there at the bottom, I will actually put a link to both the manual and to the download page. So you don't have to go look it up in the search bar if you don't want to. All right, looks like we're good. I'm going to go ahead and close the VirtualBox and minimize our virtual machine. And thank you for watching. If you do enjoy this content and you would like to see more of it as I start spooling up my YouTube business, I would much appreciate Patreoning me or subscribe starring me. I will put links down below to that for you. And obviously, if you like it, hit the like. And if you would like other people to see it, hey, share it around. You know how that social media stuff works. We got to have it shared and liked, or it's kind of hard to get the thing going. So I would appreciate that if you wish.